Okay, I'm going to talk today about trying to determine if a club shaft is a split hickory shaft or a sawn hickory shaft. And actually, I don't know the answer to that. But some historians claim that they can look at a club and they can tell that the club was made by splitting the hickory. And what do I mean by splitting the hickory? Well, you would take a board, preferably fairly straight grain with the grain running parallel to the edges of the board as much as possible. You would take a froe, put it halfway in the middle there of the board, hit it, I'm not going to split it, hit it with a mallet or a froe club, split that down the middle. In this case, I would have two halves. I would then take each half and split that down the middle, and then I would work that billet down into an inch or 7/8 of an inch square billet using typically a drawknife, which is this, and you would be sitting on something called a shaving horse, and work that down while the wood is still green or wet, hasn't been fully seasoned. It's a lot easier to work. You can use a drawknife with dry lumber, but it's a lot more difficult. So we're trying to see if we can tell the difference between a sawn hickory board, and I just showed a post where I was sawing the piece of wood off, a 3/4 inch piece of wood, and then planing it down, and trying to see if we could tell the difference between a sawn hickory shaft and a split hickory shaft. I cannot tell the difference, and I don't know what criteria historians use to say that a shaft has been split. Perhaps they're looking at the grain and seeing no grain run out. Let me show you what I'm talking about with that. So here, let's see if we can zoom in. Right, so when you see the grain here, it's running, whoops, there we go. It's running diagonally, right? So the grain of the board is actually running out of the club sideways here. So it's not running straight down, it's running out a little bit. So in this case, especially because I see a couple, let's see if we can focus that. There we go. I see a couple of what we call cathedral grains. There's this here where it's running out diagonally. There's another one here. I can say for sure that that was not a split hickory shaft, okay? And maybe that's what they're using as their criteria. But so here's a shaft, and this shaft doesn't have any grain run out. Yet this was sawn, and there's no grain run out. There's no diagonal cathedral grains on the front or the back, or the side for that matter. It should be only be. I mean, you might be able to make an argument that is, but that's minimal. Maybe the tree was just bent a little bit in one spot when they cut it. But there's no cathedral grain, and the club I'm working on here has no cathedral grain. You can't really appreciate it too much, but I don't think there's going to be any. When I stain it, you'll see it better, but I don't think there's going to be any cathedral grain there. Yet these were both sawn. So I don't know for sure what criteria they use. Now maybe they're using the fact that they see that it was done the old-fashioned way, the way I did it on this club. You might be able to appreciate that it's not perfectly round. There's some facets a little bit. Right here it's a little flat. So that was planed. Then you can say, all right, well, the club was planed. But you can't tell that it was split. So if you read, in my opinion, if you read in a book that a club was split, I think that's a guess. If you do see grain running out, then you can be pretty sure it wasn't split. But if you don't see grain running out, it's a good shaft, but you don't know if it was sawn from a very straight hickory board like this, or ash board if it was done earlier, or it could have been split. There's no way to know for sure. Maybe I'm wrong about all this. Maybe there's a woodworker / golf historian that knows more about this information than I do. I might be missing something. If there is, please let me know. But from what I can gather, there's no way that you could know that a golf club shaft was split. Why is that important? Well, if you did know that it was split, more likely than not, that club is probably very old, because they pretty much abandoned splitting shaft, except for kind of the very finicky player who requested one. But pretty much they abandoned that when they started actually importing hickory as boards rather than logs, and that was, probably 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, somewhere around there. Yeah, so anyway, that's my thoughts on split hickory compared to sawn hickory.